Hello everyone! I hope you're ready for another adventure because Wayne continues to read The Watchdog and the Coyotes by Bill Wallace. Always remember that when we go on these adventures, all you have to do is press the CC button to follow along in your YouTube link. Now, who do you think is going to join us for today's adventure? You've guessed it, it's the best boy of all. Hello, Red. Are you ready to join us for another adventure? Well, Red's ready. Let's jump in. Chapter 11. There were 12 coyotes in my yard. While we slept, they had formed a circle around us. When Pooky woke me, I saw coyotes watching us with their yellow eyes. They licked their lips. "We're hungry," their leader drooled. Still half asleep, I struggled to my feet. Our tummies were full, but we were still cold and weak with hunger. "We have no more food," I said. "You've eaten it all." "So," one scoffed, "you guys look pretty tasty to us." "Yeah," another one added. "I bet the little one there, the one with the big ears, long tail, I bet he's downright yummy." They all laughed. It was an evil-sounding laugh. Yellow eyes shining, white fangs glowing in the night. They took one step. "Get him, sweetie," Pokey whispered. I leaned close to his floppy ear. "Let's try just once more to be friends." Pokey rolled his soft brown eyes. I turned to face the coyotes. "If you eat us," I reasoned, "there will be no more food. Without us, our masters will quit filling our bowls. Then you will have nothing. Nothing at all. We're hungry now." The circle of coyotes tightened. "That one ought to feed 6 or 7 of us," one yapped. "I want a leg," another one chuckled. "I want his guts," another yapped. I took a deep breath. I don't want to bite, but I was not a coward. I took a brave step forward. "Take me," I said, "but please, don't eat my friends." The big coyote, who was always seemed to be the most one talking, grinned. "That's what we were planning to do." "Yeah," another coyote snickered. "And when we get through with you, we'll eat those other scrawny mutts too." They all laughed and took another step closer. Red backed his rump against me. He bared his teeth and growled. "There are some animals you can't reason with. We've either got to fight or die." Pokey leaned against my leg from the other direction. "Ready to get him, sweetie?" "I'm ready," I whispered. I felt the ridge along my back. I bared my teeth, growled. Only it had been so long since I growled that it was more like a fruff came out. I took a deep breath so I could bark at the coyotes. Only it had been so long since I barked, it was all a yap. The coyotes howled with laughter. One jumped in and nipped me on the leg. It hurt. I tried to bite him back. Only it just had been so long since I bit and my jaws didn't open. My cheeks just puffed in and out, making a loud popping sound. The leader of the coyotes jumped on Red. The Irish setter fought bravely, but in no time at all, 2 other coyotes had helped the leader knock him down. One chumped down on Red's leg. Pokey fought and snapped, but he wasn't very big. 2 coyotes grabbed him, each holding Pokey's hind legs. They stretched him out and started dragging him halfway across the yard. "Sweetie better do something." 5 pounced on me. Their sharp teeth hurt. I growled, but it was too soft, weak. I bit, but my jaws were settled and wouldn't even have hurt a kitten. All I could do was stand there as they bit and slashed at me with their glistening white fangs. I screamed in pain. I hoped and prayed it would be over soon. Light flooded the yard. "What's all the racket?" "Get out of here!" my master screamed as he threw open the back door. "Get away from there, you stinking coyotes!" In a blink of an eye, the coyotes scattered. A couple ran through the holes in the other yard. Most of them back and were slinking off into the desert. As the 3 of us lay panting and whimpering in the yard, my master went back inside and got a flashlight. I could tell that he wondered what Pokey and Red were doing in my yard. He didn't ask. Instead, he came out again. He checked to see how bad our injuries were. Pokey and Red each licked his hand and thanked him for saving our lives. We were bleeding and hurt, but our wounds were not serious. My master went back inside his house. Pokey, Red, and I huddled in my big doghouse and licked our wounds. "They'll be back," Pokey said. "We don't stand a chance." I licked my paw. We do stand a chance, I assured my friend. My master scared them. We will watch to make sure they don't come back. Red sniffed. He had a big cut on his nose where one of the coyotes sunk his fangs in. He won't watch forever. When the coyotes think it's safe and your master's no longer watching them, they'll come back. Next time, there will be way more coyotes. Your master may not always be able to protect us. I licked my paw again. Then we must learn to protect ourselves, I said. It's been so long since I've had to bark or bitten that I've forgotten. Tomorrow we go into training. What's training? Pooky whimpered as he tried to lick the cut on his neck. We're gonna get in shape. My first master in California used to run and lift weights and do exercises. It was to make sure him pretty for the big girls. But it also made him stronger. That's what we are going to do. Before our masters woke in the morning, Red and Pooky went back to their yards. They dug 2 new holes right in the center of the yard by the fence. Sure enough, when my master told their masters about Pooky and Red being in my yard last night, they came to investigate. Since the new holes were in plain sight, they used shovels to put the dirt back. They never bothered to look for Red's other hole on the side of the yard, or the broken boards that were in the back of Pooky's yard. As soon as they had left, I started our training. Since the coyotes had stolen all our bones, I had sent Pooky for supplies. His master's son had left a softball, a bat, and a basketball in the yard. Pooky's hind legs were stiff because the coyotes had tried to make him a wishbone out of them, but he had brought the things back into my yard. Red and I took turns biting and gnawing on the baseball bat. Pooky chewed the softball, picking up in his mouth so he could throw it down as hard as he could. Then, he would shake and throw it high in the air. The second it landed, he would chase after it and bite it again. I chased the basketball. I tried to bite it, but it was just a little too big for me to get my mouth around. I chased it nonetheless. I tried to pin it against the corner of the fence, and if it got away from me, I chased it some more. Each night we slept in my doghouse. Each evening before bed, we practiced our growling and snarling. We took turns snapping at each other too. We wouldn't snap hard, but it was good practice at moving our nose or paw before it got bitten. At first light, we tumbled out of the doghouse. We ran 20 laps, one behind the other, around my big backyard. After biting practice, we played chase. Red grumbled and complained about his arthritis. He didn't like running, but he knew he needed to be in shape. With each day that passed, we could run longer and farther before we got tired. Pooky wasn't as fast as Red and I were. He was quick though. Just as one of us would close in on him during the chase game, he would dodge or double back. My long legs carried me almost as fast as that once I stopped him. Gamely, the beagle jumped and shook himself. Then he and Red chased me. A week passed and no coyotes. All 3 of us felt much better. Without the coyotes, we had plenty of food. Our tummies were full, our wounds were healed, and we felt stronger with each passing day. Then one night, the coyotes howled in the desert. Pooky trembled and scooted closer against the backside of my doghouse. I knew they'd be back. Red raised his head. Maybe we should go out and bark at them. We could tell them how strong we are now. We could warn them not to come back. If we do that, maybe they won't bother us. I didn't answer him. My tail made a thumping sound on the floor of my doghouse. They're way off in the desert, Pooky said, still shoving himself against my side. They probably won't come until tomorrow night. The next day, it was training as usual. Red didn't grump about running laps. Pooky bit the softball harder than he had before. I chased the big basketball around and around, if I could, just bloom. Pooky and Red were getting a drink. Both wheeled around. With a smug grin on my face, I came trotting towards them. A limp, flat basketball hung from my mouth. I dropped it at my friend's feet. I think I'm ready, Red said. I think we're ready, I said. That night, the coyotes howled again. My master and his wife drove away in their car. Where they went, I don't know. I did know there was no one to keep watch. There was no one to turn on the light. There was no one to protect us, but us. A little after the dark, we heard the coyotes jump over the fence in the Pokies yard. They laughed and burped as they ate his food. Shouldn't we go get him? Pokey asked. I didn't answer. A nose poked through the broken boards in the fence. Coyote sneered and looked around. I lay in the opening of my doghouse, resting my chin on my paws. The coyote disappeared, and we could hear them jumping into the back of Red's yard. When I heard them munching on the table scraps and bones, I turned to Red. Now, I whispered. Red climbed over me and raced across the yard. He hid in the dark behind one of the shrubs. I turned to Pokey. Now. Pokey started to climb over me, but then he stopped. You're not going to try to reason with them again, are you? You do remember how to bite. I smiled. Now, I repeated. Pokey trotted quietly across the yard and hid in the dark by his fence. After a while, when the coyotes were through joking and laughing and burping and slobbering, one appeared at the hole under my fence. He saw me lying in the doghouse. He sneered and slipped through the fence. Another followed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 12 coyotes slipped through the opening. I crawled out of my doghouse. The coyotes came and formed a circle around me. Where are your buddies? The big leader licked his lips. I didn't answer. It don't matter, he scoffed. We just eat this one first. Then we can find the other two. They're probably hiding in the doghouse. I forced a ridge of hair on my back to stay down. I didn't let my lip curl and my white teeth show. Wouldn't you rather be friends, Mr. Coyote? All the coyotes laughed, yapped. Sure, one said. We'll be friends. Yeah, added another. As soon as we're through eating you, we'll be the best of friends. The big coyote trotted up to my face, and he snarled at me and showed his long fangs. Why don't you just lie down, big boy? Make it a little easier on us. His nose was almost touching mine. Well, Mr. Coyote, I said softly, if you don't want to be friends then, the big coyote's eyes flashed wide. All he could see was the empty cavern of my throat when I opened my mouth. I bit down as hard as I could. The coyote's whole head was inside my huge jaws. When I let go, the coyote fell backwards. He tumbled himself over a couple of times, and he landed back in a daze. He finally managed to crawl back to his feet. His eyes rolled around his face. He shook his head. Slobbers went flying over his head. Did you see that? He gasped. He almost bit my head off. His eyes rolled again. Man, talk about a headache. I took a deep breath, and with my loudest roar, I screamed, Charge! We are going to end our story there because it's getting very exciting. I'm really looking forward to see what Red does when we get to come back for our next adventure. You go rest, Red, and we're looking forward to seeing how this story ends. See you, buddy. And we'll see you on the next episode here with Wayne Reads. Thank you for stopping by. We can't wait to see you soon. Bye-bye.